DarkAce Narrative. This story is posted by Jill D81 on Reddit Creepy Encounters. Man on the Bike. So, this happened a few years ago when I was working at a university lab. I was walking home after a long day, which was usually a 45-minute walk. It was summer, and the evenings were still light, so I didn't mind. And part of the route was by the river, which was really scenic. I was in my early 20s and 5 feet 3 inches. So small, I could look younger from a distance. So anyway, I had gotten to the river path. I noticed two men ahead of me. One was on a bike about 40 and the other on foot about early 30s. As I approached, they both looked up at me. I had a weird feeling which made me just want to get away. As I passed them, they said, "Hello." I was polite and said, "Evening," and carried on walking. As I left the river path, I noticed the man on the bike had started following me. I thought I was being paranoid as this was the route to the town center and he could have been making his way there. As I got to the main street, I decided to cross over the road to see if he was following me. And he followed. I did this several times and he copied. I started to panic a bit. It was a bank holiday, so a lot of the high street shops were closed and the streets empty of people. Also, I had run out of battery on my phone to ring my boyfriend. A silly error. I decided to make a break for it and ran down a side street. I came out of the side street and there he was, waiting for me in the middle of the road. He said, "Do you have a boyfriend?" I said, "Yes." He replied, "Lucky man." Creeped out, I continued walking and he followed. I was getting closer to where I live and I really did not want him knowing where that was. I can't really remember, but I managed to run up a flight of stairs and round several street corners without him being directly behind me. I had made it to my home. Keys in my hand, I quickly opened the door and got in before he entered the street. From the upstairs window, I could see he was cycling round in the street, looking for me. After 10 minutes, he gave up and rode away. It was not till a few years later I saw a newspaper article reporting on the conviction of a man assaulting teenage girls on the river path. I recognized him as the man on foot. The article stated his accomplice, a man on a bike, which was not identified.
This story is posted by Freaky Things 456 on Reddit. No sleep. Why I'll never go to Disney again. Disney World's Toontown was my first job out of high school, and at the beginning everything was great. For those of you who don't remember, Toontown was where Mickey and Minnie lived in the park and had everything you would imagine would be in a real neighborhood, a neighborhood that a cartoon would live in. There were houses, kitchens, bedrooms. Kids could even go in and microwave stuff on a little cartoon microwave. Donald Duck had a little houseboat you could go inside. Goofy had his roller coaster. There was a lot of cool stuff. And although it was for kids, I actually really liked it. I mean, where else in the world could you go and step in a real cartoon village? That was all until I started working the night shift there. What in the daytime looked cute and silly quickly became very creepy after the sun went down and guests left the park. I worked in custodial, so I was one of the last people to go through the parks at night, and unfortunately, I usually had to go in alone. So, one night I was doing my rounds and emptying trash cans. I walked straight through Toontown to try and get to Tomorrowland and back to the front of the park. I was finishing a 10-hour day and was definitely ready to get out, so I was walking pretty fast. Normally all of the little houses were dark and the sound effects would be turned off. Not tonight though. I went back there and all the lights and effects were still going strong throughout the area. I was dumbfounded. This was a serious departure from protocol. So, I had to tell someone about it, and people were going to get in serious trouble. I continued walking and pulled out my radio bit. As soon as I did, everything shut off. I then heard shuffling in the distance and thought I saw a tail go into some bushes over near the train station. I figured it was probably just some raccoon or something. The area back there was completely surrounded by national forests and animals turn up all of the time, so I completely forgot about it and went about the rest of the night. During my shift, the next morning though, I heard some very disturbing news about that area. A rat was found gutted and smeared all over Minnie's house floor. The official story was that it was killed by a possum or two, but the amount of carnage involved seemed suspicious to me. Anyways, it was business as usual, of course. The number of situations at this park that could happen before there is any change in operation is truly astounding. That was until later in the evening I saw a batch of policemen and security officers crowded around Main Street strategizing something. For that amount of them to be all gathered around one place meant something definitely must have happened. I found one of my leaders standing over on a sidewalk staring over at the group. I asked her what had happened. She said she wasn't sure but heard something about a baby going missing. I had never heard about anything like that happening in these parks, so that really freaked me out. By the time I did my sweep later that night, it was about 2 in the morning. I did all of my normal tasks, but I was certainly dreading getting to Toontown. I was still kind of shook up by the events from the night before, even though I knew they were honestly pretty much normal. So, by the time I got to the area, I was relieved to see that the lights and sound effects were not on. I approached an empty trash can in front of Minnie's house and noticed through the window that the cartoon refrigerator was still open. I figured that one of the crazy interns must have forgotten to shut the door when they closed down the park for the night. So, I walked inside the house and went to the kitchen to close it, but when I tried it didn't close all the way. Fear suddenly surged through my veins. I automatically knew something was wrong. I slowly opened the refrigerator door and witnessed to my horror a baby inside, lifeless and cold. In a panic, I radioed my supervisor and told him what had happened. He told me to get outside the house immediately and that the police were on their way. Then, a number of boxes and items got knocked down in one of the rooms behind me, and somebody ran out of the door. Too terrified to move, I stood there and watched as a man-like thing with a tail skittered past the window. I immediately went outside, desperate to see what it was. It was gone. The police arrived soon after. I told them everything. When no one was paying attention, I saw something on the kid's coaster. It looked like a silhouette of Mickey Mouse. I am now writing this 3 weeks after this incident. I was the obvious suspect for killing that baby. My family stopped talking to me. Not even my therapist believes me. But you believe me, right? This story is posted by Divine Retribution 8 on Reddit. Let's not meet. Creepy bathroom stalker. The story is told from the perspective of a man. I work in the garden area of a home improvement store. I don't work the cash registers, and my manager doesn't even let me water the flowers, so a lot of time I have nothing to do. This results in me taking extremely long bathroom breaks, where I just scroll on my phone. I know it sounds bad, but it's better than standing around trying to look busy. Today was the same as any other, with me wasting time in the bathroom. Nothing of interest happened until my work phone buzzed at the same time as the stall next to mine. This becomes important later. A few seconds later, I see that the guy in the next stall had his hand stretched to the ground with his palm facing up. I at first thought he had run of toilet paper and was asking for mine. He just stayed silent for a while, so I ignored him after that. Then he started moving that hand uncomfortably close to my leg, so I immediately scooted away and prepared to leave. Once the man noticed that, he hurriedly got out his stall before I could leave. Another few seconds of silence. I took a peek out from the gap of the stall door to see what the hell he was doing, and just like a scene for a horror movie, our eyes connected. He was barely an inch away from my door, trying to peek inside. My blood ran cold. If you're wondering why I didn't immediately open the door and cuss the guy out, I really hate confrontation. I avoid it whenever possible, and I do my best not to draw attention to myself. I stood sideways by the door so he wouldn't be able to see me. That's when the whispering started. I don't know what the first thing he said was, but it sounded like moaning. The next part was a bit more audible. He said something along the lines of wanting to see more of my unflushed toilet paper. I was thoroughly disgusted. This guy was a complete creep, and I was alone in the bathroom with him. My heart was beating faster by the second. I know I had to stay there until another person came into the bathroom. No way was I going to confront him alone. Probably a minute later, someone finally arrives, and I take this as my chance to wash my hands and get the hell out of there. Thankfully, the presence of the other person made the old man quit his creepy behavior. As I was about to leave, he blocked my path for a quick second before stepping aside. The weird thing was, I don't even think he works at the store, because he wasn't wearing any vest. My store is extremely lenient about uniform, but most workers at least wear a vest or something connected to the store. He just looked like a regular customer. I'm certain I heard phone dings echo in that bathroom. The phones have a signature ring to them too. It couldn't have been a coincidence. Either way, he only started creeping on me once the phone ring made it clear that I was an employee. The situation really creeped me out, and I've been totally unfocused on my work since then. I kept prowling the garden area to look out for any old man wearing a similar outfit to the creeper. I have an incredibly hard time distinguishing faces, so I probably wouldn't even recognize him even if I did see him. Creepy bathroom peeper, let's not meet again.
This story is posted by Janlita on Reddit Creepy Encounters. Be careful who you befriend. This story happened when I was a junior in high school. I was a friendly and a curious person. 1 month into the fall semester, we got a new transfer student. He looked nervous. Seated behind me was Joe. I, of course, introduced myself to him, trying to ease the tension. I showed him what we learned so far. I helped him look over his class schedule. We had 2 classes and lunch period together. Naturally, we got to know each other and became friends. He's a quiet kid but talked a lot around me. Although, I assumed he's just comfortable with me. I made it clear that we're just friends. He agreed. And we started hanging out with my friends. Now fast forward to spring break. I ran into Joe in a restaurant and told him,
I'm going out of town with my family.
He seems disappointed that we can't spend the break together, but he was understandable. I didn't tell him where I was going. Yet, he said, he was visiting a family in this same town, so I thought, wow, what a coincidence. Now in senior year, Joe and I hung out at least once a week. Then turned into 2, then into 3. I noticed we were spending too much time together. I want to make time for my other friends too. That's when things started to change. There was a time, I saw him in the corner of my eye when I spent time with someone else or sometimes by myself, alone. He becomes obsessive and clingy. The first 2 to 3 times, I didn't think much of it. It all becomes clear when I questioned him and he accidentally said he followed me because he wants to make sure I was safe. I feel betrayed and creeped out. He apologized and asked for forgiveness. But I told him I didn't want to be friends anymore. He got angry and left. He didn't come to school for the next 2 to 3 days. My friends told me he harassed them for snitching on him. He came back to school. We pretended we didn't know each other. On my walk home, I hear Joe calling my name in a low and unfamiliar tone, but he was nowhere to be seen. I didn't know why, but my gut told me to run as fast as I can. I kept running and running until I got home. I made sure every door and window were locked. I'm convinced I was being paranoid at this point. Then my phone screen lights up. Joe repeatedly called me. Then I hear Joe calling my name again. He's in front of my house now, banging on the door. I called my dad and told him what happened. I pleaded to Joe to stop banging on the door. Everything went completely silent after 5 minutes, which feels like an eternity. The last word I heard from him is,
"You'll always be my best friend."
This issue was brought to the school and Joe never showed up again. Now 4 years have passed. I got friend requests on 2 of my social media. It was him, Joe. But I blocked him instead and changed all my social media names to something else. Although I don't live in the same town nor in the same country anymore, I can't help but feels like I'm that scared 18-year-old me again. I'm not the friendly person I once was. I've become more cautious around now to other people. Anyway, As I did report him way back then and got a restraining order against him when that happened.
This story is posted by Zucchini Salad on Reddit, Creepy Encounters. Almost got kidnapped while looking for my dog. It's my first time posting on Reddit, so sorry if I got the wrong sub or else. To give some context, I live in Italy and usually cities' historical centers have mainly pedestrian zones and few parking spots for residents. Last week, while my sister was walking the dog, unfortunately, our dog saw a cat and ran away before my sister got her. We don't put on the dog's leash at night, since she's trained and the streets are empty. My family loves that dog, of course we all went searching. By the way, my parents are divorced and we're staying at my mom's. Anyway, bad idea having 3 women in the streets at night, I know, but we didn't know what else to do. I was in my PJs with my phone and running low on batteries, so without flashlights and just few poles illuminating the streets, it was quite dark. I was shouting my dog's name while looking for her, when a 40 to 50-year-old man, which I didn't saw until that point, said that he just saw a dog running a few blocks from where we were. My dumb ass was so worried for the dog that I didn't even ask the guy what the dog looked like. I followed him in silence until we were near a parking spot, and he got really close to me, tried to put his hands around my back. At that point, I realized what was going on. I pushed him and sprinted as fast as I could. I know the place really well and hid where I knew he couldn't find me. I texted my mom. I didn't call her for in case the man was near, he could have not heard me. A few minutes later, both my mom and sister arrived together. We decided to call it a day and went home, and my dog was waiting for us at the door. To end, I don't know what that guy's intention were, but I'm glad I reacted quickly and got away.